Kobeni. And I just don't get it, right? Because I was like, what? She's really funny. She was awesome. I love her scenes. Let's talk about here, right? I really want to go into this thing here because I, as an anime only, I adored all the Kobeni scenes, and I think it isn't fair to compare her to Step and Zenitsu, right? I don't think it's fair at all. Yes, they're both scary cats, but there's a big difference in the storylines. Let's go into that one, because I think it's a big difference in the storylines and so on. But anyway, it's a brief context here, right? Kobeni is currently trending and so on Twitter. Everyone's talking about her. You know, yeah, everyone's talking about her. Kobeni's hated. People don't like Kobeni. Yeah, people calling her the sloppy div. There's a lot of stuff about Kobeni, so let's go into it. I understand people find her annoying and so on, right? But I just find her hilarious funny. And this is actually what I'm happy, right? I'm really happy in that sense that I do live reactions, right? So go check my live reaction out. But no, subscribe. But honestly, because you can go to my live reaction, right? And when this thing happens, I was cranking up immediately. I was like, oh, this is hilarious! And then when Power soon here all after, I was like, this is comedy, go! This is the funniest scene in the anime so far. You know, when Power started doing this thing, I was like, ah! Yeah, I was like, this is hilarious! Yeah, like, so there's huge thing here, right? I think it's a lot to break down here, honestly, because I think this is the funniest scene in the anime so far. And what I mean with that, right, is that, yeah, it's funny, but I also mean that I'm just, all people are trolling and saying, oh, she's like using a Sakura, whatever, so on, right? But I think that, first of all, right, every character, male or female or trans, whatever, right, doesn't matter, doesn't have to be a goddamn strong warrior, right? Right, that's the first thing, right, you know? We can have characters, and that's something that, for example, that President Sakura doesn't make much sense, because Sakura is supposed to be one of the, you know, big three, basically, in that anime, right? But to be like, you know, she's supposed to be like Sasuke and Naruto and so on, in that level, right? You know, trained by Tsunade and so on. So there's a difference there, right? That Sakura is mostly kind of whatever in like 95% of the storyline, right? Where Kobeni is clearly not, you know, the main female character. She's not Power or whatever, right? She's supposed to be like, oh, it's either this or doing sex work and I hate my job. She's just supposed to be the normal person stuck in that bad situation, right? So that's the first thing I have to say, easily defending Kobeni. I think it's really silly how that whole trend of like, oh, every female character has to be strong or whatever, right? Or every man doesn't matter, right? Yeah, we have to have weak characters and strong characters, right? So that's one that is kind of silly, generally speaking. But more importantly, right, is comedy gold, right? Yeah. When I see this scene and she's crying and Power's laughing at her, I'm laughing too. I don't think this is hilarious. Power making fun of her, right? I mean, you have to have this dynamical characterization, right? Where so the thing is that I don't get, right? Because people are like, she's so annoying, she's the worst character or whatever, but I just hate that people are breaking this down into like that every character is in a vacuum, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? The characters exist in a dynamic entrance, right, of several different characters, right? So when Kobeni is crying here, you can say whatever you want if you don't like her, whatever, yeah. But it doesn't make any sense because the scene is about Kobeni crying and Power laughing at her, right? That's the actual scene. You need the dynamic of these two characters, right? So Power's a funny character, right? Power's my best girl, right? She's my favorite character so far, right? As an anime only. And I love Power's, you know, jokes or whatever. And then with this scene, right, Power's jokes are even funnier, right? So I was really enjoying Power, right? Last episode before as well. But now I'm enjoying Power even more. And that would happen without Kobeni, right? So that's the first thing I have to say, right? I really dislike people are breaking down characters, or they're ignoring the context, right? They're ignoring the vacuum. The characters only exist in this tiny sliver of vacuum, again, where nothing else matters around them. But more importantly, Kobeni actually changes the storyline, right? And that's why I don't find it actually honestly very fair to compare it to Zenitsu, right? Now you see my little Demon Slayer girl here, right? So I like Demon Slayer, right? It's a pretty good anime, pretty popular anime. But I hate Zenitsu though. I actually don't super hate Zenitsu. But the difference here is that a lot of people compare him. Oh, they're scared, cat, whatever. But the thing is that his afraidness, right? His scaredness, his you know, oh yeah, doesn't actually impact the storyline that much. Instead of him just running away, right? Then he goes to sleep, and then he's bad at it. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. But that Kobeni here is afraid, right? She's easily then paranoid, all this stuff, and you know, afraid of this. That actually affects the storyline, right? So immediately here, her actual fear and weakness, right, or whatever you call it, is actually very important for the actual story. Because she's like, here's Kobeni, right? That wants to kill Korose. She's the first one to immediately crack for the evil demonic presence, whatever. So yeah, the whole stuck in this thing. She's the first to crack, right? And that's something I have to say. Honestly, I absolutely don't agree with all the Kobayane haters, right? Because that's why it doesn't make any sense. Because yes, in like a typical, again, Naruto, whatever, Shounen, One Piece, or whatever, right? Black Clover, so on. Yes, then you kind of want all the male and the females or whatever, right? You want all the characters to be badass and strong and competent because they're gonna fight the bad guy demons or whatever, right? They're gonna fight the summonings of this thing and so on. But when you have a storyline like Chainsaw Man, where you in this situation you're stuck in this like looping hotel, right? Obviously based on horror movies, kind of The Shining and so on, right? Kobayane's coming in like here, yeah, and so on. Here it's not really about anymore that, as I said earlier too, that the Pepper have to be strong or whatever. But it's also about that these kind of storylines, right? They work better, of course, when someone is mentally weak and can crack and so on, right? When someone like poor Kobayane is like, oh, I should have done this, or I should be a prostitute, right? Yeah. And she hates her job and so on, right? She doesn't want to do the shit and so on. It makes more sense, right? Having a character like her here, because you need the dynamic, right? It reminds me of playing any of these games, right? Among Us or whatever, Avalon, or all these different board games, the Mansion on the blah blah blah, all these different kind of like evil. If you play all these board games, right? Among Us is basically board games, right? Where you have someone is evil, right? Someone is hiding who they are, and supposed to kill the other players in this board game, whatever, right? In secret, whatever. In those kind of games, right? Someone has to be cray-cray, right? Or someone has to be evil and so on. Whereas something happens, right? You know what I mean? If you're stuck in the evil mansion hotel or whatever, stuck on the hilltop or whatever, someone has to go crazy, right? Whereas it's not interesting, right? That's why I'm also kind of frustrated seeing people hating poor Kobayane, because she's supposed to be the mentally weak character, so someone has to be, I will kill you, so we get some conflict, right? And I think that's probably one of the reasons I absolutely disagree with, I think, a lot of the people's take, right, on Kobayane, because again, I think people kind of view her from this, like, let's call it the shonen lens, right? And of course I mean battle shonen lens, the bat shonen lens. Oh, she can't throw fireballs? Oh, this woman is pathetic, you know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, but this is not an anime where everyone can throw fireballs. So I think people are trying to force her into like, oh, she's just like Zenitsu, but even worse, because at least this guy had lightning abilities, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but Demon Slayer is a much more, again, head-on, strong fighting anime, right? Demon Slayer doesn't have this kind of, psychology or this kind of horror theme, right? Yes, they're fighting demons and it's kind of like brutal, but again, I don't dislike Demon, I like Demon Slayer, but the Demon Slayer doesn't really have like, oh, we're stuck in a mansion, how do we escape this puzzle game, you know what I mean? That's not really a Demon Slayer trope. Demon Slayer is more like, we're stuck in a mansion, who can I kill quickly? Yeah, Demon Slayer is more like, yeah, it's a little more action-packed, right, It's less of this, the weirdness. Chainsaw Man, and I say it's an anime only, right? It's clearly more, again, a horror-themed anime, right? And obviously borderline, I guess, on seinen-ish, right? But I know it's shonen, but it's more borderline on that, right? So that's also why I feel the Kobayane hate is really, really unfair, right? Because, come on, she's supposed to be the woman that cracks, right? Because someone has to crack, or else it's not interesting in the actual dynamic of the storyline. And then again, that's also why I don't find her annoying at all, right, compared to Zenitsu. Because Zenitsu being afraid doesn't, in my opinion, add too much to the storyline. He's just running around being afraid, right? It doesn't actually change the dynamic of the storyline. But Kobayane, then, as I said, her being afraid, her being, mentally, oh, shit, what's happening? So that actually affects the storyline. She starts triggering even more in the next scene, though. She's like, you're a spy! Let's kill power! Let's kill them all! Right there. Again, you need this character. And I think arguably she's the best fitting character, right? And but I honestly, it frustrates me generally, right? Because again, this is amazing, right? Power says behind him, like, you go, girl, kill us both! You know what I mean? It makes Power funnier, right? It makes Kobayane funnier. Again, you need this kind of character to give you that dynamic of like someone has to go mentally insane. That's what makes episodes so fun, right? But anyway, that's my Kobayane defense, man. The true best girl of Chainsaw Man. And you guys subscribe, slap on that, check out the reaction we see it right away. I loved Kobayane. I was crying, laughing every Kobayane scene. It was the best girl.